A very good evening and good morning to all participants from all over the world. Thank you all for joining us today from across the world. We have participants from the USA, UK, Kenya, Zimbabwe, Malaysia, Bangladesh, Nepal, and India. On behalf of the Director, ICMR, Dr. Hemalata, and the Head of the Academics of the Department of Sports Sciences, Dr. Bharti Kulkarni, it is an honor for me to extend a very warm welcome to all participants who have joined us today for this second webinar of the series of webinars on mind-body integration for wellness. If I get unmuted, please sound me. Anybody who is unable to hear me, kindly tell me if I'm muted. If I get muted, that is. Now, wellness, I'm sorry. Yeah. Wellness, the 8-dimensional concept, takes the definition of of health by the WHO as health being a state of well-being forward and describes it as a process, a conscious, self-directed and evolving process of achieving full potential. Everything we do, all these 8 dimensions, be it physical, mental, emotional, social, spiritual, financial, intellectual, or occupational, relates to our well-being. On the contrary, our well-being relates to all our actions with respect to these aspects of life. And so, well-being is now being recognized as essential to live a higher quality of life, to subdue stress, to subdue risk of illness, and to ensure positive interactions in all areas. While our first webinar looked at the influence of yoga on this concept of well-being, we have for you today 2 speakers with research insights on reaching the full potential of the mind and on interaction of the mind and body. So let me introduce you to our first speaker. Our first speaker for the day is Dr. Bandi Hari Krishna from India. Dr. Hari Krishna is a physiologist by training who earned his PhD in medical physiology from the Jawaharlal Nehru Institute of Postgraduate Medical Education and Research, Puducherry. He earned his master's degree in medical physiology and psychology, postgraduate diplomas in yoga therapy, guidance and counseling, research methodology, and he is also trained in nutrition and physical activity for health, clinical trials, life skills, and stress management. A well-learned doctor we have for you. He's a certified yoga teacher, and he's interested in exploring the modus operandi of mind-body practices and spread the knowledge about healthy eating and active living amongst youth. In recognition of his research on yoga therapy for heart failure and telomere biology, he has been awarded with the international travel support to attend and present his research outcomes in the USA by Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. And also, he is also a recipient of Swami Kuvalayananda Scholarship and Travel Award twice, once in 2014 and once in 2017. He's on a mission to positively impact over 1 billion youth by spreading the knowledge and importance of mind-body integration for wellness. Currently, Dr. Bandi Hari Krishna is working as a Scientist D, Medical Physiology at the myasninwellness Department of Sports Sciences, a scheme of the ET Division, ICMR-NIN. He's on deputation from Sri Venkateshwara Medical College, Tirupati, Andhra Pradesh, where he was working as an assistant professor of physiology before coming on board NIN. And his topic for the day is meditation to achieve an exemplary mind. Over to you, Dr. Hari Krishna.
Well, thank you, Dr. Preeti. I appreciate the kind introduction. Uh, if you see the concept of wellness, or the concept of mind, or the concept of thought, all these concepts are very heterogeneous and always questionable, right? So, having experience of all of you by attending a previous webinar, as well as your own experiences about your experiences, as well as your thoughts about the mind, I have a question for you. You can type your answers in the chat box. My question is, what is your perception on mind? You can type your answers in the chat box, please. What is mind according to your perception? Yes, soul. Good. Mind is psychological. Thinking and intelligent. Mind is mental. Good. Version of knowledge. Thoughts and beliefs. Reflection of your thoughts. Well, apart from everyone have their own perception on mind and thoughts, but let's follow some evidence-based terminologies which are directly linked with the concept of mind. So for our today's talk, let's consider the mind as the complex of faculties which are involved in perceiving, remembering, considering, evaluating, and deciding, right? So it has so many components which are involved in maintenance of this mind. So if you see all these terminologies and all these faculties of the mind, everything runs around the concept of thought. So now, what is thought? My next question for you is, what is thought? You can type your answers in the chat box. Imagination, dream, well, let me tell you something about the concept of thought which we can stick for the development of exemplary mind. So thought may be simply defined as aim oriented flow of ideas and associations that lead to a reality oriented conclusion, right? So there are several answers which I am getting here. That is a process of brain functioning, belief, manifestation of subconscious mind, dream. So all these answers are, of course, they are directly related with what we are talking, the concept of mind and thoughts. Okay, now we'll see something about how to achieve your exemplary mind, right? Let me share my PPT. Yes. So we are already done with these two questions. That is, what is mind and what is a thought. So my next question is, why thoughts are very important? You need not to answer. I'll talk something about it, because the thoughts are very important to develop human excellence or holistic development. And we know that physical, emotional, intellectual, moral, and spiritual well-being is important. So all these arenas of life are determined by our thought process, which is of course the function of our mind. Okay, so now take few seconds and take a paper, note down all thoughts which gets into your mind and keep them with you. You may need after some time, right? So I have another question for you. What is the present state of your mind? I'll give you the clue. What is the present state of your mind? So is it dull? Is it disturbed? Is it distracted? Is it focused? Or is it mastered? How do you feel with your mind? Are you feeling dull or disturbed, distracted, focused, or mastered? Be honest with your answers. There is something to check. If you say answer as focused or mastered, I have something to check with you. Well, relaxed, focused, dull, distracted, exhausted. Well, this exhausted is one of the component of again distracted or disturbed mind. Well, so okay, let's have a small game to see how many of you are focused or mastered. So I hope all of you have a pen and paper ready with you. So I'm going to give some instructions. So the instructions will not be repeated, and questions or clarifications are not permanent. These are the two rules of this game. If people are ready, you can just type as yes so that I can start giving the instructions. Yes, good. So quite a good number of yes I'm seeing here. Okay, so I'm going to start the instructions. I'm giving you the rules again. The instructions will not be repeated. That is first instruction. And the questions and clarifications are not permanent, not permitted. Okay, right. So draw two circles of 3 centimeters each. Within each of these two circles, draw two more circles of 1 centimeter each. In the middle of each larger circle, draw a vertical line of 0.5 centimeters in length. Perpendicular to the vertical line, draw a horizontal line touching the vertical line in its lower end. Draw a figure of 3 and a mirror image of figure 3 at 2 to 4 o'clock position and 8 to 10 o'clock position respectively on two large circles. I hope everyone have done this. Now this gives, say for example, now I have given some instructions. That means you have some sensory inputs to your mind. There you have processed, you have identified my instructions. There may be a block at identification. That the reason could be the way of communication or the way you perceived that, or how fast you can process your thoughts in your mind. And these are several physiological factors which are involved in giving instructions, sensing with your you have visibility of my lip movement, so you have visual inputs as well as auditory inputs. So with this visual and auditory inputs, how best your mind could process the thought and you have interpreted on the paper. So since it is online, we cannot monitor what exactly you have done, but I'll give you the answer so that you can compare your answer with you and be honest. If at least any one or two have got a correct answer, then we can call you as mastered with your mind. How many of you have got this answer? How many of you have got this answer? Be honest. I know a few people, yes, I got correct answer. In that, 2 or 3 have attended my live classes as part of my physiology classes, so you have got that answer. Or if that is your real processing, then definitely you are mastered with your brain. No. Yes. So many people have got no. The answer is no for many of the people. Good. So it does not mean that your mind is not processing properly. So there are several issues which are involved with the way you receive the stimulus and the way you process your thoughts and the way you interpret. So we are going to see how this processing will be disturbed and what are the best ways to improve this mind processing or thought processing. And we see some research based evidences which shows that by practicing meditation you can have a better mind or focus or the thought processing, right? So as I have mentioned, most of the times our mind will be categorized as dull or disturbed or distracted, focused or mastered. So generally in yogic tradition, the dull mind we can call it as muda, distracted we call it as vikshipta, distracted we call it as kshipta. So dull means most of the times you will be lethargic and forgetful, and the disturbed mind will be most of the times will be rendered troubled or with negative valence or restlessness, and in fact it has no control over itself, right? And distracted mind, sometimes call it as shift mind, which wanders a lot occasionally, and it has some focus also, and most of the times it is fickle. And focused mind or ekagrata is generally called as generally it has a concentration on specific task, and it will be very least disturbed and unaffected and uninvolved with other types of stimuli. And the mastered mind or nirudha mind is very well controlled, regulated and restrained. So the one which who can attain this state, that is nirudha state or mastered state of mind, then we can call them as exemplary with their process of mind, right? So the actually in yogic tradition it is advised to start the meditation if a person is at the level of distraction. If the person is lethargic and troubled or too much of negative valence, the meditation may not be very effective. So we'll see how this neuronal networks alters this various thoughts and various memories with meditation practice, right? So generally speaking, nowadays the mental discipline is not well augmented, and if we see it is not catered too much. Now the generations have complete ability for deep observations and the most abuse of technology. There will be rapid succession of impressions and images which hinders the development of mind, which in turn affects the process of your thought, right? So generally speaking, the mind or intellectual power is augmented by the habit of precise reasoning, the understanding of logic behind each and every concept, and application of some mathematical language wherever required, and deep observation into the concepts, right? Then if we see we don't cultivate a quality of deep observation, and we encourage the habit of multiple impressions and images in our mind, which results in mind wandering. So generally speaking, the mind wandering is a biological phenomena, and we have, every one of us will have that. So literally speaking, the mind wandering means a shift in the content of thought away from an ongoing task or from in the external events or in the internal events, right? That means you will be running away from the actual work which you have to do with your mind or brain. So most of the times our thoughts or mind slips into unrelated thoughts, and after some time suddenly you will realize and try to come back to our actual task. When I say this, many of you might have come back, or many might have recollected when you are studying. You used to go out of your thought on your book and come back. So now in the next few slides, I'm going to explain how to control them intrinsically, extrinsically by way of meditation, right? So the severity of this mind wandering level depends on activity level, that is how active you are generally, and distractibility, that is your degree of concentration and paying attention when you are not particularly interested, and regularity, that is the predictability of your biological functions like sleep and appetite, and sensory threshold, that is how sensitive to physical stimuli or touch, taste, smell, sound, light, which involves all your special senses, and your approach or withdrawal with the characteristic responses to a new situation or new person, and the adaptability, that is how easily you adapt to transitions and changes, such as switching to a new activity, and persistence, that is inability to give up, or sometimes in negative way you can call it a stubbornness, and mood, your mood, that is the tendency to react to the world primarily in positive or negative way, right? Now, apart from these mentioned issues, this mind wandering and the processing of your thought and your perception is also depends on three components of your personality, that is id, ego, and superego. That is, id means it is a aspect of personality present from the birth. Generally, it is most primal part of the personality. Generally, it drives people to fulfill their most basic needs and urges. And ego is the aspect of personality which is charged with controlling the urges of id and forcing it to behave in realistic ways. And superego, this is the final aspect of personality to develop and contains all ideals, morals, values which are imbued by our parents and the culture which we have grown up. And this part of personality attempts to make the ego behave according to these ideals. So the ego must then moderate between these primal needs, that is id, and the idealistic standards, that is superego or reality. And most importantly, there is a concept called as average concept or the principle of average. You might have seen this related to this so many posts in social media or somewhere. You are the average of 5 people you spend the most time with. Again, I'll repeat. You are the average of 5 people you spend the most time with. So be wise in choosing with people with whom you are going to spend for a longer duration. So the people you spend the most time will shape who you are. They determine what conversations dominate your attention, and they affect to which attitudes and behaviors you are regularly exposed. Eventually, you can start thinking like they think and behave like they behave, right? So these are little psychological aspects. So when it comes to the details of mind wandering, generally 2/3 of this self-regulated thoughts is tinged with emotions of some kind, which you have exposed in the recent past, or with more, or you shared with various people, or you encountered various situations. And there are some studies which says that people spend more than 30 to 50% of wake time on mind wandering. That means thinking about uh, other than what exactly they have to think. Right. This is where you have to regulate the mind so that you can have better outcome in your work. And then the reason why people are associated with mind wandering is it is associated with some positive valence. However, it has to be channelized so that our focus, attention, and thought process will be utilized to achieve impeccable mind, so that there will be better chance to get good outcome in the work which we are doing. So physically, these thoughts, feelings, emotions, and cognitive functions of functions of brain is related to certain networks of brain. And in general, if we see the whole part of the brain, generally the limbic or primitive part of the brain, which we have inherited along with the evolutionary path. Generally, it is most associated with the limbic cortex and mainly responsible for emotions. And the cortical part of brain, which through the evolution of human stage is developed, and most of our logical, critical thinking and capabilities in intellectual domain and creativity are mainly developed with the cortical aspect of the brain. Right. There is some technical glitches. Let's continue. No issues. I just want to know if whether my slide is visible and I am audible. If yes, I can proceed.
Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you. We can proceed now. So there should be interaction between these two parts, and the efficiency between these two components of brain determines at any point of time if a person is focused on a given objective or task of his mind, if it is wandering everywhere. So that it is to say that the primitive part of brain is more emotional. If we encourage the same thoughts repeatedly, due to neuronal plasticity, and the limbic cortex become more stronger compared to the cortical area, which is involved in a lot of cognitive and intellectual capabilities. So next, with this concept, just we'll spend half a minute about the Arishad Vargas, which are related to various thoughts of our mind and brain. So we have kama, krodha, this kind of thing. So kama is generally called as lust or desire, krodha is anger, and lobha is greed, moha is fascinating or attachment, and mada is arrogance. So all these are developed during the process of our growth. It depends on, again, with whom you are interacting and what kind of environment we are grown up, right? So all these 6 passions or characteristics are very strong individually and extremely powerful collectively. So most of the times they are interconnected or interrelated. So one leads to another. They're strong because over a period of time, in everyone's life, they may be deep rooted themselves into your inner being. So in each life you accumulate more and more, make them even stronger. So it should be regulated by your mind. If it is not regulated, it may lead to several pathological conditions, which in turn develops the psychosomatic disorders because of inability of controlling these Arishad Vargas, right? So now I have another question for you. How many of you have attended some training sessions to develop anger or jealous, lust, arrogancy, arrogance or jealousy? Definitely none of us, because all these are developed as part of our growth and development. So to make your mind exemplary, you have to control, or you have to regulate, or you have to properly execute all these Arishad Vargas for betterment of life, right? If it is not controlled, it may lead to some psychosomatic disorders. So to make your mind exemplary, we must try to make your wandering mind to become concentrated, so that you can achieve the higher cognitive abilities. And in general, based on some studies, we can say that by practicing yoga and meditation particularly, again, a quick note here is based on which state your mind is. It is possible to make wandering mind to concentrated, thereby controlling your thoughts and achieve your exemplary mind. So there is a lot of evidence which shows that the benefits of meditation are on your brain and mind. So based on these several research observations, we can understand that there are some changes in structural and electrical activities of brain in helping to regulate various functions of your mind. So now we are going to see some neurophysiological basis to understand the reasons behind this mind wandering and different states of mind, and how meditation works to strengthen this network to achieve the exemplary mind. So before going to that, just sit for 10 seconds, observe your thoughts. Whatever thoughts you get into your mind, write in your comment box. Just 10 to 15 seconds. Well, slow down in adaptation. Why this exercise? You will get answer in next few seconds, ma'am. You can note down yourself. Well, I hope you have noted down, or even if you have not noted down, doesn't matter. Your thoughts are with you. So if you observe them, most of your thoughts which you have got in this particular time, when I ask you to observe yourself, are related to your emotions or relations or friends or events or incidents. So all these are episodic memories which will come into picture as soon as we start doing some activity, which leads to mind wandering. So now let's try to understand it and how meditation helps to overcome it. So there is a network which is called as default mode networking in our brains, which is responsible for this mind wandering, and this is the network which we can use to explain the mechanism of action of meditation to regulate your mind wandering, so that control your emotions and thoughts to achieve the exemplary mind. So this default mode network is commonly defined as with resting state data by putting a seed into the posterior cingulate cortex and examining which other brain areas most correlate with this area. So this network is mainly studied by using positron emission tomography or fMRI, that is functional MRI, or even with SPECT also can be studied. So it has been shown that The default mode network exhibits higher overlap in its structural and functional connectivity, which suggests that the structural architecture of brain may be built in such a way that this particular network is activated by default. So we have various parts in this default mode network. These are mainly divided into functional hubs or functional parts. So the one is called as information functional hubs, which involves posterior cingulate cortex and precuneus, and medial prefrontal cortex and angular gyrus. So these are responsible for all the tasks like remembering the past, thinking about future, and processing concepts plus spatial navigation. And also it is responsible for processing of personal information and autobiographical memories and decision making regarding those personally very close, such as family members. So you just imagine a certain thought, and if you are allowed to sit in a fMRI, then these particular areas will be highlighted when you are undergoing that particular thoughts. And the second component of this network is dorsal medial subsystem, or thinking about others. The other system which we have discussed is mainly related to your own thoughts or your future thoughts or something related to your close family members. But this particular system, that is dorsal medial system, which involves dorsal medial prefrontal cortex and temporoparietal junction and lateral temporal cortex and anterior temporal fold. So this mainly reflects on beliefs about others, also known as theory of mind, and also involved in social directed thoughts such as determining or inferring the purpose of others' action, not our own actions, and abstract conceptualization, particularly social in nature. So imagine the people, those who talk more about others, they will have the dominance of this particular area. And the other system is medial temporal subsystem. So mainly it involves with autobiographical memory and future stimulation. So it is mainly composed of hippocampus, parahippocampus, retrosplenial cortex, and posterior inferior parietal lobe. So these mainly, particularly this hippocampus, mainly involves in formation of new memories as well as remembering the past and imagining the future, right? And the parahippocampus is responsible for spatial and scene recognition and stimulation, right? So next concept which we can see is, so I'm sure now your mind is in a new state called as confused state. Those who are good at neurophysiology, they may feel it little interested. First 3 slides, others might be in a state of confused. So after coming across these 3 slides, many of you might have entered into a new phase, that is confused. I'm repeating again. So no issues. Let me make the things simple and actionable in day-to-day life. See, in our brain, there are certain areas in this default mode network, simply called as medial temporal lobe, which is concerned with the episodic memory. I'm showing here the medial temporal lobe is mainly responsible for episodic memories. So these episodic memories or the emotional memories are also stored and released. So all our episodic memories or emotional memories will be in this temporal lobe of default mode network. So generally we know that the mind wandering is disturbing sometimes, and this will have a source of variability, that is disturbs the task of the person supposed to do. So the source of disturbance in mind mainly lies here, that is the medial temporal memories. Now at these default areas, of the brain will be active. So there are many components in this network which is responsible for regulation of this default mode network, otherwise the memories, that is episode, they are the episodic memories. So now we'll see, now I am going to talk about one part of the brain which is associated with temporal lobe, that is where the emotions are regulated. Now we have some variability, that is various thoughts which are coming or disturbing or controlling the episodic memory. It can be constrained by our internal cognition. So there are some mechanisms which are developed within our brain to control these episodic memories, which are called as internal oriented cognition. And the another network called as dorsal attention network. Another network which is called as dorsal attention network. Say for example, if you are doing some work concentrating on an object like holy picture or god or idol as part of meditation, which leads to external orientation. So at this point of time we will have some constraints on this. So this center, that is dorsal attention network, is responsible for inhibiting these thoughts. And particularly when we do meditation in a posture, initially we concentrate on posture, right? So in which asana you are seated, or how you are going into meditative state, and not only the external attention but also the sensations arised from the body. So your thought process are slightly deviated to that posture or what is happening within yourself. So you are slightly away from this episodic memories. So now, whether it is an internal or external cognition, we have certain other network called as ventral attention network, or we can call it as salience network, which is very sensitive for salience. That is some types of new experiences. That is similar example which I have told. If you are seated in a new posture or different type of breathing, or any change in your practice also causes some constraints on this episodic memories, so that you will be deviated from that, so that you can develop, you can have better relaxation in your mind, and you can develop better thought process, which leads to exemplary mind. And generally during meditation we instruct to just observe the sensations but not to control. So with this we are also learning the emotional maturity component. So all these networks, internal orientation, external orientation, or salient network or frontoparietal network, all these leads to deliberate constraints on thought, which is actively plays important role during the meditation process. So when we practice this meditation repeatedly, by the principle of neuronal plasticity, these networks will get very strong and in fact flexible. That is, we can shift from activity of one network to another network based on the requirement, right? So the deliberate constraint on thought by frontoparietal network is the strongest network. This one, the deliberate constraint on thought, which is maintained by the frontoparietal network, is the strongest network, which suppresses the episodic memories and develops the one-pointedness and the intellectual development. So the internal oriented cognition can be useful to develop emotional flexibility, and appropriate activity of these circuits plays important role in development of creativity. Right. So, say for example, if there is something wrong with this network, say for example depression, the person will have so many negative variances. So the person keeps on ruminating because of one type of negative memory. He really wants to come out of it and to control, but he cannot, because the thoughts are ruminating across one or two of the negative experiences or negative episodic memories which he or she had came across. Okay. Now we have discussed how this meditation is responsible for this development of better thoughts. Now just see what is meditation, and we will see few research-based evidences where there is a better functions of mind or thought process. So meditation need not to be becoming a different person or a new person or even a new better person. It's all about training in awareness and getting a healthy sense of perspective. So you are not trying to turn off your thoughts or feelings. You are trying to learn to observe them without any judgment. And eventually you may start to better understand them as well. So there are different types of meditations based on various teachers. There are many are there, but we are not going into detail of that. So the basic mechanism and the benefits are all more or less same with which has proved with various studies. So there are several studies done by these researchers which have proved that there is a better emotional processing, neuroplasticity, perception and cognition. And there is one study which has showed the in EEG pattern there is more activation of frontal and parietal regions in F3, F4, P3 and P4 than control. That means these regions are mainly executive network which are responsible for creative cognition, particularly the regions of interest where the specialized knowledge is being stored. And improvement on creativity test performance indicates that this particular type of meditation increases association and strengthens the connectivity between frontal and parietal lobes. So these are the major nodes of default mode network and executive attention network, which enhances the important stages of creativity like preparation, incubation and illumination. The other study which has shown that increase in the energy of PSD, that is power spectral density for brain rhythms in the desired locations as depicted by gamma waves mainly in F8 channel and alpha and theta waves mainly in F7 and FC5 bands in EEG. So these particular areas are responsible to minimize the energy losses while performing the task and to improve the capacity of working memory. And another study by Vaden in 2018 December showed the analysis of fMRI data during the exposure of emotion evoking stimulus, which revealed that the yoga with meditation, asanas with meditation, activated two unique brain areas, namely superior parietal lobule and supramarginal gyrus. So these particular areas have been associated with attentional awareness and reduced egocentric bias and processes which have been implicated in emotional regulation by others and also associated with reappraisal during emotional regulation. And the other study by Gote, that is Neha Gote, in 2018, they have showed the increase in the gray matter volume in hippocampus, showing greater volume in experienced yoga practitioners, including the meditation component. So these particular areas are involved in executive function and especially with working memory. In fact, it is one of the primary role which is played or regulated by the component of mind. And another study by Vellimore, they have showed the more insular gray matter volume and correlated with yoga experiences, including the meditation component. So these areas are responsible for regulation of autonomic nervous system and interoceptive awareness to tolerate with pain. So all the autonomic control is well developed with this, right? So these are some evidences which were published by using very standard techniques which I have discussed here. So put it in a nutshell, your mind is responsible for various thoughts, feelings, emotions and becoming development of impeccable mind. So the mind and thoughts are interconnected. So if you have better thoughts, you develop better mind. If you have better mind, you can cultivate the better thoughts so that you can develop the better quality of life. So mainly this meditation will be better explained by using the concept of default mode network, and we have seen the various internal and external stimuli which regulates the mind wandering in terms of controlling the episodic memories, and various research studies which shows the importance of meditation to have a better mind, or simply you can call it as exemplary mind. So I close my session with one best quote which I have come across. We are nothing but what our thoughts have made us. It is by Swami Vivekananda. So now I'll close my session and hand over to the host. Thank you so much. You can write your questions, and your questions will be answered at the end. Thank you for patient listening. You can take a quick 3 minutes break. The other speaker from USA is ready. He is almost entering into the room. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hari. And I request the technical team to help me share my screen. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you again, Hari, Dr. Hari, for so much clarity on what mind is, what thoughts are, the principle of averages, and for elaborating the neurophysiological mechanisms of the functions of mind, and also for enlightening all our participants that it is the mind that is responsible for your thoughts, and thoughts for the mind. And together, they are responsible for a better quality of life and in achieving an exemplary thought process, or what you called as an exemplary mind. Thank you so much. The questions will be tackled at the end of our sessions. And we move on to our next speaker, as you can see on your screens. Our next speaker is Dr. Dilip Sarkar. Dr. Dilip Sarkar is a medical doctor and a surgeon by initial training. And all his degrees are on display on the screen itself, and there are so many. He's currently the chairman of the Center of Integrated Medicine and Yoga Taksha at Yoga Taksha Institute, Hampton, Virginia. He's a retired vascular surgeon turned yoga acharya, a certified yoga therapist, certified Ayurvedic yoga therapist, and Ayurvedic practitioner. He retired as an associate professor of surgery at the Eastern Virginia Medical School, Norfolk, Virginia. And now he teaches yoga therapy, Ayurvedic philosophy, and the Ayurvedic yoga therapy both nationally and internationally to healthcare providers, with a focus on integrating yogic and Ayurvedic wisdom with the science of Western medicine. Dr. Sarkar started the first category 1 ACCME approved CME, which is the continuing medical education course in the USA for physicians. And it's called Yoga Therapy for Medical Professionals. He started this in the year 2010. He serves on several local and national healthcare boards as past president of the board of directors for the American Heart Association, Virginia. He's the immediate past president of the board of directors, International Association of Yoga Therapists, chairman of the board Life in Yoga Institute, Life member, National Ayurvedic Medical Association. He's a fellow of the American College of Surgeons and fellow American Association of the Integrative Medicine, AAIM. On January 12th, 2019, during annual convocation, he was awarded Doctor of Letters degree in yoga by the best yoga university of the world, which is the Swami Vivekananda Yog Anusandhan Samsthana of Bangalore, India. His new DVD, Yoga Therapy for Health and Healing, a daily practice, and his book, Yoga Therapy, Ayurveda and Western Medicine, a Healthy Convergence, published in April 2017, has been very well received by the yoga therapy, Ayurveda, and Western healthcare community. The book is being translated in Bengali and will be published in India by Anand Publisher of Kolkata, India, 2019. It is an honor, Dr. Sarkar, to welcome you on board this webinar. And may I request you to kindly deliver your presentation on mind-body integration and American experience. Over to you, sir.
Namaskar, Dr. Lal. I hope everybody can hear me. I can hear all of you. It's okay, Dr. Lal? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. You're audible. And now you're, yes. Yes, you're
sir.
audible.
You're audible, sir.
Okay. So, first, let me see if I can see myself. Then I'm going to share. Let's put in a spotlight video. Okay. It's all technological challenges we're learning. Okay, pretty good. First, again, thank you. Thank you, Hari and Hari Krishna. We've been in touch. We've been in touch for a long time, and he asked me to present on this your mind-body wellness webinar. And I've been in this country, in America, for almost 50 years. So I just want to share with all of you what is the state of mind-body wellness, which is primarily the yoga therapy and yoga therapy wellness. As all of you know, the mind-body integration is yoga. And let me see if I can start sharing with some slides with you. And I'll be presenting for about 45 minutes, excuse me. And then we'll take a question and answer. Okay, you can see my slides now. Okay, can you see my slides now? Is it visible?
Yes, sir, it's good to go.
Yes, sir.
Beautiful, thank you. Okay, so let's start the topic. The topic is the mind-body integration for wellness and American experience. And it is for the International Webinar Series. As I first mentioned to you, the word yoga, as you all of you know, is a union. It's a union of your body, mind, and spirit. And as Dr. Lal said, I carry too many hats, but I will tell you, where do we stand in United States today? So this union of body, mind, and spirit, what is yoga, is a philosophy, which is Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, And it's 196 sutras, of which 193 are for your controlling the mind. The practice is the 8 limbs, Ashtanga Yoga, and you have all the 8 limbs. And most of you know all the 8 limbs, so I'm not going to go over with it. But I have a reason for presenting it. The reason for presenting it is that Hari Krishna was here in the United States twice to receive an honor and award. That we have a association called International Association of Yoga Therapists, where we have started doing research on yoga and start integrating yoga in our modern healthcare system, which is called the integrative medicine. Dr. Lal mentioned about my book. My book is called Yoga Therapy, Ayurveda, and Western Medicine. What we started finding it out in United States, that initially the yoga was diluted only in asanas, but eventually when it started entering into the mainstream, and I'll show you how it entered the mainstream medicine, that the biggest talk was the keeping yoga in yoga therapy. That means keeping it is in a original form where it came from the scripture from India. And that's the reason I was telling you that the philosophy is still there, 196 sutras, practice of the 8 limbs is still there. But what you find out that the effect of a daily practice of yoga, which was initially for self-realization. Outcome of yoga was a self-realization, but we developed a lot of health benefits, and which essentially became a wellness. And wellness becomes called an art of self-healing. It became art of self-healing, and the illness which we are treating by our Western medicine integrated with the wellness. So the integrative medicine today is your integration of the wisdom of yoga therapy with the science of modern medicine. Now, as you can see how this thing is going to work, and this is the conceptually from obviously American standpoint, but it also applicable for India also. And you will know that when yoga came to United States, the first, it was brought here by Swami Vivekananda in 1893. He first presented with your Parliament of World Religion. Then next person came around in 1920s, Paramahansa Yogananda. He wrote a book called Autobiography of a Yogi. Then in 60s, multiple yoga gurus came, Swami Satchitanand, Swami Kaivalyanand. They have established a very big yoga centers. Hari was there in one of them called Kripalu, which was established by the Kaivalyanand, Kripalunand. And so the conceptually here is the integration of the body, mind, and spirit is, the spirit is the programmer, mind is the software, body is the hardware. So if you take care of the mind, if you take care of the software, hardware will get fixed, as simple as it is. So what we have done here, that in the United States, we took the philosophy and practice of yoga as is from the scripture, and then we have tailored it based on patient's clinical condition. What does it mean? Adaptation of the yoga. We have the same tool. We have the same tool. We have the same your yoga sutras. We have the same yam, niyam, asana, pranayam, pratyahar, dharan, dhyan, samadhi, but we have tailored it slowly. How did you do it? How did you adopt it? That's yoga therapy. So in a transformation, when you see is not to master the postures or the asanas, but use the postures in stages for transformation. What we say, in stages, impossible become possible. This is basically a concept of your neuroplasticity. You keep on doing it, 10, 20, 30, 40 inputs, it will happen. So you don't push it. The way you have seen a practicing of yoga asanas in India, somebody went standing on somebody's body, two people pushing it down to get into your, say, a Baddha Konasana or a Titli asana. Those are not a yoga therapy. Yoga therapy is the practice of yoga where you are. You practice, you meet. If you cannot even sit down, start in a chair, we call it chair yoga. A stage approach that teaches a pain-free asana. Very important concept that if you are in a posture today with an underlying medical condition, so the back pain, hip pain, knee pain, diabetes, hypertension, because we find it out today that yoga therapy is a wonderful tool for your chronic diseases. So if you get into the pain, that means you have created imbalance in the physical body, which does not have any therapeutic meaning. So you have to be a little short of pain, but stay in the posture with the effortless breathing. The effortless breathing is very important. The concept of yogic anatomy or physiology is called the 5 koshas, Annamaya kosha to Pranamaya kosha to Manomaya kosha to Vijnanamaya kosha to Anandamaya kosha. Any imbalance you create in the physical body will affect your breath. So as long as your breath is effortless, lung is like a balloon. It has a 6-liter capacity, of which 1.5 liter is the residual volume, but 4.5 liter is your vital capacity. But our tidal volume, the amount of air we breathe in and out, is only 500 cc, 0.5 liter. So slowly and slowly, we can increase the amount of air bringing out, amount of air bringing in, because the muscles of respiration are skeletal muscles which can be trained. So in the United States, in yoga therapy, we first teach the patient to breathe out first. When you breathe out, you make a room in the lung. Lung is like a balloon. Now you can breathe in. So typically it will be, and when I'm breathing in, completely effortless. And I'm breathing out also effortless. What is the physiology behind it? Inhalation is sympathetic. Exhalation is parasympathetic when it's done effortlessly. And most of our chronic lifestyle-related disorders, which we call NCDs, non-communicable diseases, are primarily due to stress, activation of your sympathetic overdrive, and we'll show you slowly and slowly how it affects all of us. So the practice of yoga therapy, which is a relaxation response, which is the activation of parasympathetic tone. So slowly and slowly, when you have an effortless breathing, pain-free asana, you slowly enter into a state of meditation. In the state of meditation, it optimizes body's natural healing power. So essentially what happens, yoga therapy is the art of self-healing. That you have an inherent healing power which you activate with the practice of yoga therapy, and it builds the physical and mental resilience. In Western, we all talk about evidence-based medicine. Show me the paper, show me the numbers. I'll show it to you. I'll show it to you how many papers we have in yoga therapy, but primarily it is a practice-based evidence. I teach physicians. I teach physicians in a continuing medical education, how to integrate yoga therapy in Western medicine or in modern medicine. And first of all, a physician will come, I want to use it in my practice. The answer is very simple. Go ahead and start practicing. Once you start practicing, and if you feel the physiological effect within you, you will have a transformation. In fact, the transformation will have, which is the introspection, and we'll show it to you a little bit more and more how it does. Once you have that introspection, when you start looking inside, you will be able to use it in your practice. As I said, the yoga therapy, able to hold the asana pose a little longer. Asana goes through stages. The first one is called arambho. Arambho is the contraction of the muscles. And if you stay in the pose a little longer with the eyes closed, with effortless breathing, muscle cannot stay contracted for too long. Muscle slowly and slowly is going to relax. When you start relaxing, before it is a fasciculation, it fasciculates. Fasciculation goes down, it's called a sthiti, stability. And then you get a visarjan, called profound relaxation. Completely opposite of exercise. In exercise, muscle contracts. Heart rate goes up, blood pressure goes up, respiratory rate goes up. It's a sympathetic response. And this is a purely a parasympathetic response, activation of parasympathetic tone. So now in the United States, if you look at, this is the study done in 2016, almost 36 million people are practicing yoga, and your almost 80 million people likely to practice, $16 billion industry, and the people believe that it relieves stress, it's good for flexibility, strength, and performance. We are almost to the level now that we are coming to a called integrative medicine, which was started in the board certification in 2014. So we're almost ready to write a prescription now that yoga therapy for chronic low back pain, metabolic syndrome, cancer. It is not here yet, but it's coming. So as I said, the yoga therapy is introspection. That means you have to awaken the doctor within you. There is no problem in the world which does not have a solution. There is no cure. There is no disease in the world which does not have a cure. Just awaken the doctor within. When the doctor is within, what you see essentially that the self, which is your soul, self is really introspection, looking inside yourself. You find it out that I am the cause and I am the cure for the disease. Why? Primarily, if you look at our Western, the father of modern medicine, the Hippocrates said about, look at about 450 years BC. It is more important to know what sort of person has a disease than to know what sort of disease a person has. This is called in Western concept, is called a holistic. Western medicine is called a reductionist. Reductionist means one-to-one. I have a pneumonia, you have some investigation, you give me antibiotics. But yoga therapy is like a football match. You have 10, 12 players all playing together, and their function is to have a goal to win. So yoga therapy is not interested about the disease a person has, about the person who has the disease. It's a very, very important concept. So the Department of Integrative Medicine, which integrated yoga therapy with the Western medicine, so about 15 years back, maybe about 3 out of 125 medical school has it. Today, actually, this is the old statistics. Today, almost 110 out of 140 medical school has it. 65 has a clerkship, 25 training program, list of fellowship. And in 2014, the American board has established called the American Board of Integrative Medicine. Now you can have a board certification, like in India, if you see like an internal medicine, it's called a MD. Then you get a specialized, it's called a DM, DM in cardiology, DM in pulmonary. It's almost like a DM here is integrative medicine. One very important total transformation in the American healthcare system is the authority which is look at the integrative medicine, or Academic Consortium for Integrative Medicine, has mentioned that the definition of integrative medicine, that they give an importance, a relation between practitioner and patient, focuses on the whole person, looking beyond the body in mind to achieve optimal health and healing. This is a 360-degree or maybe 180-degree change from Western medicine I was talking about. They're all talking about body, body, and body. Now they're looking at a mind, they're looking at an integration of the body and mind. And this is the book Dr. Lal and Hari was talking about. It's my book, Yoga Therapy, Ayurveda, and Western Medicine, called Healthy Convergence. But what is more important, and this is published from the United States, that I have a picture of Albert Einstein and a Tagore, Rabindranath Tagore. Albert Einstein is a scientist, Tagore is a philosopher, and he says when a philosophy meets a science, that is your yoga therapy. That is a 21st century medicine today. This book is purely for the healthcare provider and primary physicians. It has everything in a standard Western medical world. It is a reference of 25 standard books. There is no articles or no books which is not being recognized in the healthcare industry. It has 2 DVDs, about established 20 websites, and I have a journal reference of almost 75 articles which were from established medical journals, primarily who are listed in your PubMed. And I will show you all the PubMeds which are coming. This is a book my friend wrote called Yoga as a Medicine, a widely publicized book in West, translated in 11 languages, thousands of copies being sold. Meditation as a Medicine. This is a book called Yoga Therapy and Integrative Medicine. A friend of mine wrote, Dr. Larry Payne, and I did a forwarding of the book. Here is being, and also Dean Ornish. We'll talk about Dean Ornish, who has first used the yoga in United States, reversing coronary artery disease. This is the book primarily for our healthcare provider, Principle and Practice of Yoga in Healthcare. And you have the speaker, Satbir Khalsa, Lorenzo Cohen. He's in MD Anderson Hospital. Timothy McCall, he wrote the book, Yoga as a Medicine. And Charlie Tellis is world-renowned yoga researcher, now with used to be SVIASA, now in Patanjali Yoga Pit. This is Charlie Tellis' the book on research-based perspective on the psychophysiology of yoga. And she just published a new one. It's called The Evidence-Based Perspective on the Psychophysiology of Yoga and Its Application. Since a lot of your audience here are from physiology background, you should see that all of them, these are connected with the physiology. It's a very powerful book. Here is my first DVD. It's called Thaksha Yoga Therapy for Health and Healing for Body, Mind, and Spirit. And it's totally based on for healthcare provider and explaining the physiology, pathology behind yoga therapy. It has 3 DVDs, one for the asanas, pranayamas, and one for the mudras, bandhas, kriyas. My new one is called Thaksha Yoga Therapy for Health and Healing, a Daily Practice. This is also primarily geared for integrative medicine. The whole explanation is as Western medical concept. The terminology we used here, that how to use the philosophy and practice of yoga in Western medical terms. I have a YouTube channel called Dilip Sarkar Yoga. You can go and see. I have a multiple YouTube for different ailments, but all are connected and explained in Western medical terminology. This is my DVD here again. So how did it first integrate it? What happens for the yogis, the yoginis, that when they start doing this relaxation response as a daily practice and parasympathetic activation, Slowly and slowly, that neuroplasticity takes over. And when the neuroplasticity takes over, they are able to control their autonomic nervous system, which we people cannot do. Say for our breathing, for our heart rate, when we're sleeping, we're breathing. So that is a function of our brainstem, subconscious. But I can take a deep breath in. This is my function of my cortex of the brain. So this is a connector between your brainstem and the cortex. So he came and he said, listen, you know what? I can stop my heart. So he was being hooked up. Yes, he could stop his heart, but he developed some atrial fibrillation. But in the meantime, he said, I can shut down my blood vessels in my hand. The hand has two arteries, radial and ulnar arteries. You can see, you can shut down. This is in 1969 at the time. So then he established that yoga therapy relaxation. Then came the first person who really introduced Dr. Herbert Benson. He's from Harvard University. He became a follower of transcendental meditation, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. And during meditation, he found it out there's some physiological changes. So he got all the information. He wrote a book called Relaxation Response, became one of the New York Times bestseller. But when I read the book, what I find out, that everything he wrote about relaxation response is about meditation. But probably at the time, in 1969, he was hesitant to use the word meditation. He kept his work, and he's still in Harvard, called the Benson Henry Institute. Even he wrote down a paper on 2013. So the, Public Library of Science, but it's a physiological effect of yoga. It's enhanced gene expression, what the relaxation response does. And so it acts like an antioxidant. It acts in apoptosis. And finally, this year, this is very recent, April 9, 2020, and the best medical journal in the world today, which is almost like a Bible, the New England Journal of Medicine. And New England Journal of Medicine, he published, called the New Era for Mind-Body Medicine. You can see the New Era of Mind-Body Medicine. This is the ultimate in American experience of yoga therapy. When something is published in the New England Journal of Medicine, it becomes like, as I said, the Bible of the medicine. The research is very important. I'll show you what the research you're doing. And if you had joined the last one, Satbir Khalsa. Satbir Khalsa does all the research. When I teach with Satbir Khalsa. He presents the research, and I present your yoga and yoga therapy from your scripture. And this is your, I wrote a little paper on understanding what is yoga research means. And Hari has submitted, and he was awarded during our yoga symposium on yoga research. So if you look at in United States today, the physicians or the healthcare provider, they look at this called your PubMed, the US National Library. But here, actually yoga therapy, and they separated in meditation. But remember, meditation is the seventh limb of yoga. So yoga is meditation. Essentially what happens, slowly and slowly, you enter from asana to the pranayama, to the pratyahara, to the dharana, and to the dhyan. And at the level of the meditation, you develop all the health benefits. So that is called meditation is medication. So if you put yoga therapy, you'll get over 5,000 articles. And these are PubMed approved articles, the journals. These are not really just the throwaway journals or very non-scientific journals, very scientific journals. National Institute of Health, which controls the whole our healthcare system, has funding 379 your research studies. But if you put a meditation separately, you get over 5,000 articles too, and about 355 studies funded by NIH. So when you look at your research paper, this is very important for all of you who are the researcher. We look at the first paper published in a very prestigious journal called Lancet, 1973, Yoga and Biofeedback Management of Hypertension. So when I looked at more and more, what I find out, even this is Dr. Patel and wrote in Lancet, in the journal Lancet, that is a randomized controlled trial, which is the gold standard for Western medicine. And he had it in 1975. And I want to show you a few of the articles. I'm not going to go through it because I want to show you the state of yoga therapy where we are. This is a journal called the Journal of American College of Cardiology. Very prestigious journal. I mean, their acceptance rate is probably 1 in 10. If you submit 10 papers, 1 will be accepted. And they had a article published on yoga therapy for atrial fibrillation in 2013. It's not the article. His article is very primitive and there's a lot of flaws in the article, but the way they have accepted it. That is your acceptance in Western medicine. This is a very famous article, Journal of the American Heart Association. There cannot be any better journal than American Heart Association. Meditation and cardiovascular risk in reduction, a scientific statement from the American Heart Association. Multiple authors, and it's a wonderful acceptance of yoga therapy in Western medicine. This has got just recently published, April 7, 2020. Again, the Journal of American College of Cardiology. They put a yoga-based cardiac rehabilitation after acute myocardial infarction. Cannot have a better article like this. But what's interesting is this paper is published from the research from the Center for Chronic Disease in India, London School of Hygiene in United Kingdom, Emory University in USA, University of Nottingham in UK, All Indian Institute of Medical Science in Delhi, then Institute of Cardiovascular Research, Imperial College of London, University College in London. I mean, Sri Gangaram Hospital cannot have any better institution to present a paper and in a journal called Journal of American College of Cardiology. National Cancer Institute gave in a $4.5 million grant for this Lorenzo Cohen. If you remember, he's one of the authors for our principle of the yoga with Sadbir Khalsa. And he did not have a protocol, so he got in touch with the SVSA, Swami Vivekananda Yoga Anushandan Sanstha in Bangalore. And then they have done all the work and they published. And they published in another very prestigious medical journal, Journal of Clinical Oncology, 2014, randomized controlled trial, yoga in women with breast cancer undergoing radiotherapy. Because MD Anderson Hospital primarily is called radiation oncology. They have another journal, another article published even just a few months before. And this is very interesting. The same journal, Journal of Clinical Oncology, published an article in January, and then they published one in March, which is almost unheard of, almost unheard of. This is a very interesting article, but it is a very prestigious journal, Archives of Internal Medicine. More doctors are prescribing yoga in the United States. Here is one of the best universities, public university in the United States called University of Virginia. University of Virginia got a huge funding from one of their alumni, and they started a Center for Contemplative Studies, and they wanted to do some research on yoga therapy. They established a program called Foundation in Medical Yoga for Health Professionals, and I was invited as the advisor for the program, and I have trained all of them who are going to implement the program. They asked me to be in the faculty, but I gently, a nice way to turn it down because I'm busy with other things, but that's okay. I mean, they're always on their side. This is the brand new information from the United States, the world first yoga university outside India, offering Master of Science in Yoga. This is in Los Angeles. And this is being approved by state of California. And this is almost 4 years work of SVIASA. It took 4 years to get the university status in California. And they were starting an on-site Master of Science in Yoga, but because of COVID situation now, they'll be going online. And I will be in the faculty in the university. In a brand new university, a medical university in the United States, it's called Oakland University, Beaumont School of Medicine. They have a separate department, School of Yoga Therapy, with a full-time yoga therapist. So now we can understand how far it has come up in the United States. I could compare with India, but I just want to present to you the American experience. There's a Master of Science in Yoga Therapy. It's called Maryland University of Integrative Health. There is a program, friend of mine, this is Larry Payne. He starts called the Loyola Marymount University. They have a Master's in Yoga Therapy, of which all of the students rotate in a family practice clinic called the Venice Family Practice Clinic. The first evidence base was published by, as I said, your Dean Ornish. Dean Ornish, almost in, say, here, 1995. He showed the reversal of heart disease on yoga-based. He has shown even the narrowing of the coronary arteries in angiogram gets better with a yoga-based program. This is an area called reversible ischemia, which get perfused after the relaxation response. It makes it obvious. You get a relaxation response, coronary arteries opens up, get a better perfusion. His program was called the Spectrum program, and then it is slowly switched back. It's called the Intensive Cardiac Rehabilitation. And it's very interesting. He says, undo it. It's an 18 weeks program. And this has been now actually reimbursed by most of the health insurances in the United States, including Medicare. This is our National Institute of Health, NIH, which is the governing body of controlling health in the United States. That the branch called NCCIH, National Center for Complementary Integrative Health. You can go and look at the website, beautiful website. And this is all the mentions about yoga, how and what is yoga, how does it work, how to fund yoga, whole section. And the director, all the physicians are director all along. The present one is called Helen Langenevin. She's an endocrinologist. She started in 2018. And this division, NCCIH, which used to call NCAM, National Center for Complementary and Alternative Medicine, started in 1998. Today almost have over $150 million budget to fund for the research. So even if you guys from India wants to get any funding, go ahead and apply. See, this is our association called International Association of Yoga Therapists. This is the only people who are providing therapy. It has been started in 1989. It's a 31 years old association. We do a yearly conference called Symposium on Yoga Therapy and Research, and another called Symposium on Yoga Research. This is the conference where Hari came, and this is another conference. And we have our journal called International Journal of Yoga Therapy. Our previous speaker, Sadbir Khalsa, he is the editor of it. And we have another one called for a practitioner called Yoga Therapy. Okay, can you hear me? Okay. The United States, the iconic part of the United States is called Smithsonian. Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. If you have in Australia, they have a Sydney Opera House or the Eiffel Tower. And United States, the Smithsonian. Smithsonian did a program, Lifestyle Medicine. I was one of the speakers there, and this was done twice, and they're going to do it this year with the online. And I want to show you a few patients, and just to give you some example. Actually, this is myself. I had an open heart surgery about 20 years back. With the practice of yoga, I go through a ERD called myocardial perfusion scan, and my whole myocardium is perfused with the relaxation response. This is the man, and Alan Brand. He was a long time back, almost 7 years back. It is severe ischemic cardiomyopathy, inoperable coronary artery disease. Physical ejection fraction is a function of the heart, only 10, 20%, inoperable. So he was doing in my class, I have a big class, this is in the temple, like this lady has actually Parkinson's disease, and she's sitting, this is the way we treat, putting people, and he started doing this, the Bakasana, and then I started showing him, he said, I want to do a little bit more of physiological changes. And slowly what happened, he goes back, he started doing some even headstand on his own. And you remember, in a headstand causes a baroreceptor sensitivity. And slowly, I'll explain to you a few more minutes, and I'll show it to you what the baroreceptor sensitivity does with your headstand. So his even blood chemistry got better. Cholesterol, HDL, all got better with the practice. He's actually medication free. This lady had a multiple sclerosis. She came in a wheelchair. For a practice of yoga therapy, she literally been walking on her own. This man had a Parkinson's disease. He had a Parkinson's disease, and with the practice of yoga, in fact, he's on his own. He started doing slowly in stages as a headstand. And he said with the headstand, he feel completely the tremor goes away. This man was almost like a cardiac cripple. Look at his cardiac history. 1969 has a surgery, malignant hypertension, another surgery for aneurysm, atrial fibrillation, congestive heart failure, pacemaker. Literally, he was given up by the cardiologist. With this yoga practice, he's a functioning, healthy human being. He does a lot of balancing poses, mudras. He's amazing personality. This is very interesting. This man had a cataract surgery. And after cataract surgery, he says, don't do a headstand. But his doctor was a yoga practitioner. And he said, he's doing your headstand for all of his life, this man. He said, go ahead, keep on doing it. 6 weeks down the line, he does it, and absolutely no problem. So this is the integration. The Western physicians do not understand before, now they can understand. This is one of my friends who is doing a research. He's showing, it's called Uddiyani Band. Uddiyani Band causes a profound peripheral vasodilatation. And with the vasodilatation, the temperature changes, it's a warm, and they can even sit down in this cold climate. And he had a whole team went to Himalayas. He's a professor of medicine in a university where I was associate professor, and they're showing the hemodynamic changes. And he has his Doppler, he has his echocardiogram, and this is a triangle Agni Sarkar. So this is just to give you a little bit idea. This is called a mind-body hygiene in yoga therapy. What happens if you don't brush your teeth for a month? Something happens. It's a personalized lifestyle changes. It is different to different person. It is synergistic. You have a treatment, and you can also continue it. And this is a very interesting slide. Somebody sent it to me. It says a picture of your David Michelangelo's. After 2 years visit to United States, this thing happens. Yoga therapy transforms to this. How yoga therapy works is called psychoneuroendocrinology. What does it mean? In psycho, that means above our functioning brain, we have a limbic system, which is called emotional brain. We have two areas. One is called amygdala and a hippocampus. Amygdala responds to your fear, hippocampus to memory. When the limbic system is activated, it sends a signal to our hypothalamus, which is our homeostasis. Hypothalamus sends a signal to autonomic nervous system to increase the parasympathetic tone, shift from sympathetic to parasympathetic, and also sends a signal to pituitary gland to call the pituitary adrenal axis, called altered hormonal homeostasis. It also controls epigenetics genetic expression. Remember, the genetic mutation is not the cause of the disease. The gene has to express. And the yoga therapy controls the expression of the genes. And I'm going to show it to you. It acts like antioxidants. It's amazing how it works. Inhalation is sympathetic, exhalation is parasympathetic. And it's called aerobic glycolysis. When you have more oxygen, the end product of metabolism glucose, glucose combines with oxygen, forms carbon dioxide, water, and ATP. ATP is energy. But if you don't have enough oxygen, you get anaerobic glycolysis. It produces lactic acid, pyruvic acid, pain-producing substances. So able to do a better, relaxed, effortless pranayama helps controlling body's function. And in stages, as I said, in stages, impossible become possible. Here I'm in the Sukhasana. Slowly I can, with the neuroplasticity, I can go into Siddhasana, a perfect pose. I can Ardha Padmasana, Padmasana. And you can sit down in a Padmasana, and this relaxation is preventive medicine. Let me go over it a few more minutes to show you how it works before I take all the questions and answers. See, first, yoga therapy acts as a primary prevention. Like I have a genetic predisposition. My father has hypertension. My father has diabetes. But if you do a relaxation response due to genetic suppression, it prevents the onset of genetic diseases. And this is a very famous institute called Cleveland Clinic. They started a program called Lifestyle 180. And it says preventive medicine, how not to end up here. They have a very powerful yoga therapy classes. They have about 10 yoga therapy classes in Cleveland Clinic. And they're called Chief Wellness Officer, the first person being appointed. Secondary prevention means you have a genetic predisposition. You did some epigenetics, something in the lifestyle. You have the disease. Now you have the treatment. So you have a breast cancer or a heart, you have angioplasty, bypass. And then if you continue yoga therapy, because genetic suppression prevents the progression or the reversing of the disease. Rehabilitation is very important. When you do the yoga therapy, you got a better management of the disease, less pharmaceutical support, better quality of life. We have seen diabetic people getting less medication, heart patient getting less medication, and some of the cases we're seeing cure. But this is all from your relaxation response. Because it increases vagal tone, it modulates autonomic nervous system. It causes a rapid shift from sympathetic to parasympathetic, increases baroreceptor sensitivity, heart rate variability, and all of your physiological students, you understand what I'm talking about. So here is a heart rate variability, same heart rate, 49, but this is a stiff heart, this is a flexible heart. This happens from your parasympathetic activation. A lot of articles about heart rate variability, activation of baroreceptors. Like if you do a headstand, like this person is doing a headstand, but he's measuring his carotid Doppler and measuring your echocardiogram. So this is my friend, Levitov, and he's studying the headstand. What he's finding on the headstand slowly is that, this is another one, it is showing that when you do the Doppler on the carotid artery and you do a Doppler on the intracranial vessels and the Doppler on the popliteal artery, all are same. That means body has an adaptation. And when you learn it slowly, you keep your head down slowly and slowly, you listen to your breath is effortless. And if you come to my class, I do a class on Facebook Live on Saturday morning. American time is 9:30 a.m. So that will be your 7 p.m. I'll show it to you how this. Can you hear me now? Okay. These are some of the other yoga poses and showing the effect and the genetics. It causes, as I said, the genetic expression. There's a very interesting article about called, the the regulation of the genes, down regulation and up regulation. Very, very important yogic concept. Here is why DNA is not your destiny. Neuroplasticity is the most important, and also we develop some neurogenesis. And in the United States, let me finish with you just to show you some nice pictures that when you see your yoga in a McDonald's, you know, yoga is here to stay. This is, you know, called the Smithsonian Gallery. They have a yoga, the art of transformation. I was invited a guest speaker, my daughter, who is also a yoga teacher. This is one of the best journal, Scientific America, the Science of Meditation. Time magazine, people who lose it, Science of Yoga, how your mind controls your body, Science of Meditation, Science of Happiness. This is your White House. Outside White House, they're doing yoga on your Easter egg hunt. Here it is, yoga pose in front of the White House in the United States. What more you can do? And look at this. This is a laptop, flexible laptop. It's called yoga. This is called marketing. And let me finish just to show it to you that what is the yoga? We learned all from the babies. When you look at the babies, this is a normal. They stand in Tadasana. They sit down, Vajrasana, Sukhasana. And what happens, they feel there is a relaxation response. To get up into Bhujangasana. It's a photographer that took it, candid camera. They're in a Salavasana. The Adhumukha Savasana, downward facing, there's a cat pose. Jathar Parivartanasana, Jathar Parivartan, Upavista Konasana, Paschimuttanasana. And we try doing everything. You know, in anxiety, we do a balasana. Look at how beautifully they're doing balasana. This is the way they sleep, Supta Baddha Konasana. We say, if you have insomnia, sleep like this. The boat pose, Nokasana. Let me finish here. This is a good presentation. We have about 12 minutes, 30 minutes. I will be able to answer some questions for you. And let me go back, stop sharing now, so we can all talk. Stop sharing. I am on a.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sarkar, for elaborating upon, for so vividly elaborating upon the integrated medicine as recognized in the West, and on yoga therapy that mitigates the response of stress-induced sympathetic nervous system by yogas activating the parasympathetic nervous system and its role in inherent healing for cure as well as prevention of NCDs. And it was a pleasure to learn about the shift towards unconventional therapies by conventional doctors of medicine in the West. And I'm sure our participants have many questions to ask you. So it's over to Dr. Sainath and Dr. Jagadish for the question answer session.
Yeah, I see 78 chat. I'm not going there. I cannot read when I'm presenting. So you look at it and ask me the question. I'll be answering.
Yes, Dr. Dilip Sarkar, thank you so much. It was really wonderful to listen to you, and also an elaborate knowledge about how yoga's supportive data by scientific research. There are a couple of quick questions because of the paucity of time. Maybe you have so many questions we can be answering. Is it possible if we could send some questions to your email? Probably we may be able to answer all of the questions. But right now there is one question from Dr.
Can I interrupt? I have a few extra minutes. If you guys have a minute, I have a time. So go ahead. Sure.
Please go ahead. If you would like to have.
Question. The first question you had?
Yes, please. This is from Dr. Sharvani. She wants to know how to pursue the course of integrative medicine. Your thoughts, please.
Integrative medicine today in the United States is a super specialty. Super specialty, or called a subspecialty. If you're in India, you can consider it as like a DM. Like you finish your medical school, what you call a medical school, then you do first your internship and residency. So you do internship and residency in your internal medicine, which is like a medicine. And then you get your board certification, which is MD in India, which will be equivalent to board certification in internal medicine. After your board certified internal medicine, you go for a fellowship. Generally, it is 1 year or 2 years of fellowship in integrative medicine. Then you take another exam. It is called, board certification in internal medicine, which will be equivalent to your DM in India, like a DM in cardiology, DM in pulmonary, DM in nephrology. So this is we call a super specialty of medicine.
Thank you.
And
so
we have approved program. You have to apply and to go for a fellowship first before you can take that board exam.
I appreciate that. This is really good information for the enthusiasts to join the integrative medicine. There is another question from, the name is very short. It seems to be HS. The question is there any asana that will help in reducing hyperthyroidism? Hypothyroidism.
Yeah, hypo and hyper. So first of all, always remember in yoga, it is a balance. And in yoga, what it is, in yoga therapy, we call it a rogir chikitsa, treatment of disease, we call maintenance of health. And maintenance of health is called more of your balance of the body, mind, and spirit. So what we do for thyroid, we have this is called a reductionist approach. We call it a reductionist holism. For thyroid is a wonderful treatment is your Ujjayi pranayam. And basic concept of yoga is when you massage the organ gets better. Then you do your another is called your chin lock, Jalandhar Bandha. Jalandhar Bandha is another one, putting a chin here. Then you do call a Brahma Mudra, with your breathing. Breathe out, there are 4 postures, like breathe in and breathe out slowly, putting down, turn your neck, one on the side, one in the back. If you come to my class, come to join me on the Facebook Live. I do it every single day, these practices. And the reason I do the practices is that then you can do other asanas like the Matsasana, fish pose. Then you have your Sarvangasana, Halasana. But what we ask you to do it at the end if you have an underlying condition. You need to prepare your body and mind first. You have to do some called a relaxation asana, relaxation of your hands, relaxation of your shoulder, relaxation of your neck, before you get into the reductionist approach. If you keep on doing the reductionist approach, yoga is not going to help you. Because the first slide I showed it to you. I'm not interested about the disease you have. I'm interested about the whole person. That is the mind-body integration. And that is a part of exactly what you're talking about. So I give you the names, what you can do for the thyroid, and both hypo and hyperthyroid brings the balance back with Ujjayi pranayam, with your Jalandhar Bandha, another is called a Murcha pranayam, and your Brahma Mudra, Matsasana, Sarvangasana, Halasana, a lot of other things. But you have to do a daily practice. Okay, what's next? Beautiful question.
Yeah, yes, sir. Absolutely. That was really nice to see the practical aspect, what the technique to be applied. There is one more question from Srinath. It seems to be Srinath wants to know, is the technique to integrate mind and body. Your views, please.
See, yeah, the technique to integrate mind and body is the first, if you start with the body, and body has to go through, remember again, with what Yoga Sutra said, Sthiram Sukham Asanam. When you can get into the Sthiram Sukham Asanam, then your muscles, skeletal muscles starts to relax. When the skeletal muscle starts to relax, then what happens, the muscles of respiration, which is connects to your upper part of your body, like here, muscles of respiration Let me see if I can get into, what do you get into? Okay. Muscles of respiration. When you get in, then, I'm sorry. The breath gets relaxed. When the breath gets, breath is very relaxing, you first breathe out first, then you close your eyes, have some hand mudras. The mudras are the connector between your body and mind. And breath is also connected between body and mind. Why? The breath normally is your subconscious and conscious. Okay? I am here, I'm sleeping, I'm breathing. That's a function of my brainstem. And that we call connecting the body and mind. So when the body gets into a relaxation response, you slowly and slowly enter into effortless breathing. And the breath is a connector between body and mind. So for example, if you're flying a kite, the roller you are holding, that is your body. The kite is your mind, and the thread which connects between your body and mind is your breath. So able to do effortless breathing, effortless pranayama will connect your body and mind. And the moment your body and mind is connected, you enter into pratyahara, pratyahar. Pratya means reject, ahar means input. You control your five senses. All the input you receive through your five senses is your food, pratyahar. And then slowly and slowly you enter into state of meditation. So answering to you, how to integrate body and mind, sthiram, sukham, asanam, and effortless breathing, connecting your body to your mind. Thank you for asking. Good question.
Absolutely.
Okay, what's next?
Yes, please. There is one, there are many questions pouring in, but that one which is probably been asking to know more about the energies, how to convert the negative to positive energy. Your thoughts, sir?
Okay, negative to positive energy is actually, I just, if you could go to my, very nice question you asked me. I have my YouTube channel. The last Saturday I did a program called Yoga Therapy, Art and Science. And one of the whole section was how to convert into negative to positive energy. First of all, it is your breath. So when you in a state of calm and quiet breathing, your eyes are closed, your hands are in the Dhanu Mudra, you are breathing out longer than breathing in, like you're breathing out first. So you're slowly and slowly, what you can do, you can breathe in, count of 2 in, count of 4 out, count of 4 in, count of 8 out. Practicing for so long, we easily do count of 10 in, count of 20 out. Then slowly and slowly we said, we are breathing out our negative emotions and breathing in positive emotions. So in my sort of a semi-unconscious or semi-conscious state, what I'm doing, I'm saying, I'm breathing out all my ripus, called 6 ripus, 6 suffering, Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moho, Mad, Matsarja. I'm breathing out all my 5 kleshas, Avidya, Ashmita, Rag, Viddesh, Abhinivesh. I'm inhaling all the positive emotions. I'm inhaling love. I'm inhaling pride. I'm inhaling gratitude. I'm inhaling forgiveness. All the positive I'm inhaling, I'm exhaling out all the negative emotions. Then slowly and slowly what happens, you enter into a state is called a oneness. In a oneness, in a daily practice of yoga, you are in a called non-dualistic mind. Non-dualistic mind is there is no black and white, there is no good or bad. You live in present. The moment you live in present, you totally convert negative energy into positive energy. Example given. So I'm doing I was in charge of all the conferences. I do a conference. I did a conference and somebody came and said, "Oh, did you see what the person did? And you did this thing." So I'm calm. I said, "Beautiful. You know, you don't talk to me. Whatever happened, you came and talked to me, and I loved it that you are talking to me." Literally, the person turned around and left. Didn't continue conversation anymore. So this thing is going to happen. So answering your question, how to convert into a negative to positive energy, is doing the practice of breathing, that breathe in positive emotion, breathe out negative emotion. And slowly when neuroplasticity sets in, you don't have to practice. It will be spontaneous in your day-to-day activity. Okay, thank you. Anything more?
Appreciate it. Would you mind if we could send the questions to your email? Because
Sure.
there are many questions which are pouring in, and probably they all look for some solutions from experienced and very well knowledgeable scientists like you. Appreciate
I can come back. I can come back again. Just
Probably.
I'm home, and this is my community service. I love to teach primarily the healthcare providers, which I do.
Okay.
And you can always come and join me on Saturday morning, Facebook Live. Now I'm doing all in Facebook Live, and I have so many Zoom meetings, but those are all restricted. So I'll be glad to answer through all the email. Hari Krishna has all my email address, and he can share with you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Dilip Sarkar. Now, pleasure to be listening to you. Thank you so much. This would be the time for ending the program, and hand it over to Dr.
One more thing. Can I finish my last statement? My last statement is, when you practice yoga, please practice with a smile in your face, and not to practice with some tension within you. Totally in a relaxed smile. And then the message to take home is that Karo Yog, Raho Nirog. Practice yoga and stay healthy and disease-free. Namaskar.
Perfect, sir. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Sarkar, for reminding us to put back the smiles on our face. And these days, there is a new concept of yoga that we are coming across, which says yoga on the move. Yoga on the move. So whatever you are doing, treat it as an opportunity for you to be totally engrossed in it. And so I think your session made it very, very easy for us to do that. And thank you so much for being on board. It's finally the time to wind up, and it gives me immense pleasure to propose the vote of thanks for this delightful webinar. On behalf of Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, NIN Department of Sports Sciences, a part of the Extension and Training Division presently, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to our director, Dr. R. Hemalata, for all the support extended by her towards conducting this webinar. My heartfelt thanks and appreciation goes to our academic head, Dr. Bharti Kulkarni, for her initiative to launch the series of webinars. Okay, that child needs to do a little bit more yoga, I guess. So my heartfelt thank you to the administrative head, Dr. M. Maheshwar, also to Dr. G.M. Subbarao, Dr. Hari Krishna, Dr. Sainath, and Dr. Jagadish, and the entire staff of Extension and Training Division who contributed towards smooth conduct of this program. A very special thanks goes to today's speakers, Dr. Dilip Sarkar. I think I should say that one more time. Thank you so much, sir. And to Dr. Hari Krishna. Thank you, Dr. Hari, for giving their valuable time from their busy schedule and sharing their knowledge and experience with all the participants. My gratitude goes to the staff of the Computer Division, Audiovisual, Electrical, AC, Administration, Maintenance, Canteen, and the Printing section for their unflinching support for this program. It is a new experience for us to do so much audiovisual teaching and learning, and we were supported entirely. Thank you so much. And finally, my wholehearted gratitude goes to all our participants for attending this webinar despite their busy schedules. Yes, a pleasure to have you also on board. And it has been a great pleasure to have you on board asking so many inquisitive questions. Last but not the least, with that cry of the baby, I suddenly remembered our student volunteers. Last but not the least, I would like to thank them, all our young volunteers who contributed, and a big thank you to you. All the best and continue your hard work. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening ahead or a day ahead, whatever is applicable in your country. And do join us again on the 19th. Goodbye for now. Namaste.